Hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. My name is Melyssa Allen, and I'm a double board certified lifestyle medicine coach who's dedicated to helping people drop the struggle around creating a healthy lifestyle that lasts. Join me for solo episodes and casual conversations with guest experts in the industry to discuss creating mindset and behavior changes that help you say hello to healthy living made easy, enjoyable, and empowering. What up, change makers? I am so excited to welcome you back for another week and another fabulous guest episode. But before we dive in with our interview with Alayna today, I wanted to let you know that I did some soul searching, I did some thinking, and I don't like the feel of closing the doors to the Changemaker Collective. So this ain't no April Fools, y'all. I am leaving the doors open so that way if you're reading Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck or listening to this podcast along the way, and you want to dive into our amazing membership where we support each other through our lifestyle change journey and reaching our goals, celebrating our successes, supporting each other during the challenges, and just seeing all of the transformations that we get to make along the way. That sounds like something you'd like to be part of, then make sure to head to healthylivingdoesn'thavetosuck.com/coaching and you can learn more about that as well. By the way, I am relaunching my virtual fitness studio. It is now called Move with Melyssa, and you can try your first class free, whether that's jumping in on a live stream class. I usually have those Wednesday mornings. You can use the code Move with Melyssa, all one word, and don't forget, Melyssa is spelled with a Y instead of an I. Or if you want to catch an on-demand class at your leisure, then you can use the code MWM Replay. Again, all one word, all caps. I don't know if that matters really, but just in case, both of those are all caps. And that can get you one free on-demand class. So you can access it whenever you like. Work out with me from the comfort of your home or maybe in the gym if you want to have your phone going and I'm there working out with you. But yeah, that's just something that I really miss teaching, and the virtual fitness studio is something that I really want to grow because it's such a nice complement to the membership, and it's just something that absolutely lights me up. I've thoroughly enjoyed having my little March Madness Wednesday classes this month, so I'm excited to continue and possibly add on maybe like a Monday or a Wednesday. I already do Wednesday. A Monday or a Friday class is what I meant to say. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Make sure that you're on my email list to get all of those updates. And of course, I'll make sure to have all of that linked in the show notes for you. All right, so now that I've given that little spiel, I hope I'll see you in a future class with Move with Melyssa. And speaking of movement, this episode is being released the same week as World Physical Activity Day, which is celebrated on April 6th. So that is this upcoming Saturday. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, I am so excited to share one of my favorite movers and shakers with you, Alayna Curry. So let's get to the episode. Welcome back to another episode, Changemakers. I cannot wait to introduce you to my special guest today. Her name is Alayna Curry, and we met on site at a fitness shoot for Move Athletics. So shout out to Francis for bringing us together. But we ended up meeting and found out that we were involved in a lot of similar circles. And yeah, we've just been connected since then. So, Alayna, I am so excited to welcome you to the Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am a big Melyssa fan, so thank you. I consider this a big honor that you invited me to join you today.
Oh my gosh, stop it. Well, I feel the same about you too, because if I ever
Oh,
end up having a tiny human in my life, I will be hitting up your classes, which we will dive
yes.
into in our conversation today. But for our listeners who maybe haven't had a chance to meet you quite yet, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your story?
Sure. So my name is Alayna. I'm based in Central Florida. I am in my, we'll say, mid to late 30s now. But most important title I have in my life is mom. I am a mom of two boys. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. I've been married to my husband for over 10 years now. And big passion of mine is fitness. So I've been a fitness instructor for over 13 years and I teach group fitness. I teach in person, but I also do virtual classes through my Workout with Mom program, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But I love fitness. I'm so passionate about it. It changed my life. But that is just my side hustle. I also have a full-time job too in the space industry. I do public relations. So I wear a lot of hats and I drink a lot of
Yeah,
coffee.
I imagine you do, because those launches go off at crazy times. So I'm sure that
Uh,
you're pulled in all
yeah.
different directions.
Oh yes, absolutely. So yeah, my story to get to where I am today has been a really long journey of learning how to appreciate exercise because I
Mm,
think I'm sure you can attest to this in your own story. You know, we grew up as millennials with very toxic messages about our bodies and about beauty standards and about exercise and I mean it even goes as deep as the things I was taught in my own home, right? The
mhm,
example that I saw from my own mom. And so I went for a very long time just very just just struggling with my own body image and
mm,
struggling with how to love and appreciate fitness and love and appreciate my body. And it's just been a long journey to get to here. And even
mm,
in the beginning when I was a fitness instructor, I think I made a lot of mistakes and I've really changed my philosophy and I've evolved and grown over the years in how I look at fitness, but also how I work with my students and my clients in that regard too. So yeah, it's this is an evolution over the course of the last like 20 years of my life. But I finally feel like I'm in a really good place when it comes to my relationship with my body, with
mm.
food, and with fitness. But it took a while to get there.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that on so many levels. And that's why I love bringing in like minded professionals because there's still a lot of that toxic messaging that's out there and the really extreme approaches that probably are not the most healthful. But people tend to see the results and the weight loss and the type of body that they want for themselves. And so they put themselves through that torturous process to try to achieve that, and it's just not sustainable, nor, like I said, is it often healthful. So I'm so
Mhm.
excited that our listeners get the chance to meet you today because you have life experience that I don't have, and quite a few people in my membership and in my community do have tiny humans in their lives. And so to be a mom and to prioritize as you're wearing all of these different hats and, all these moving pieces in your life, I can barely keep track of myself. So I can imagine that that's a lot harder as you start mixing in more people into that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, becoming a mom rocked my world. I mean, I was very focused on my fitness routine before I had children.
Mhm.
And then once I had my first, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, now where do I find time for me? And how am I going to make this work?" I was exercising 6 or 7 times a week, which I don't do now, but this was like, 8, 9 years ago. And I really had to figure out how I was going to be able to prioritize my health while still being a present mom. And that was a big challenge. And that's something that I work with a lot of my clients on because they're all in that same boat where they have kids. We have that mom guilt of I need to be with my children. I need to be focused on them. And I'll just put myself on the back burner. I'm the least important thing. But I always try to remind them that you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? If I am taking care of myself and prioritizing my health, I'm going to be a better mom. I'm going to be a better wife, a better sister, a better friend, a better employee. And so, really, it's not selfish to say me. It's not, you're not saying me first, you're saying me too, right? Like, I
Mm,
also deserve time and attention and focus. And so, that's something that I've really had to figure out and wrestle with after becoming a mom. And I think that the things that I talk about on my platforms and on social media and in my program, you can replace it with you don't just have to be a mom, right? We can replace
mhm.
this with anybody really who has a busy lifestyle. So if you're taking care of, elderly or chronically ill family members, or you
Yeah.
have a really stressful, intense job where you're traveling a lot, there's a lot of scenarios in life, a lot of seasons in life where life is just going to be chaotic and busy, and it's going to be very hard to prioritize your health. So the way I have built my platform and my program is to find simple but sustainable ways to
Mm.
prioritize exercise. And so I do a lot of work with moms in particular. And if it's okay, I'll talk through some of the tips that I share that I found really helpful for me.
Oh, yes,
Um,
please.
First and foremost, you have to advocate for yourself, right? Like
Mm.
nobody else is advocating for you. Nobody else is stopping to think, you know what? Elena's probably really exhausted and she could use a break so she can go exercise. Like nobody's thinking about that, right? So
Yeah.
you have to advocate for yourself. And so something that I had to do with my husband was go to him and say, "Hey, I really miss being able to work out regularly. I know we
Mm.
have a baby and our schedules are crazy, but can we support each other and take time to care for the baby solo so that each of us has an opportunity to go do something that fills our cup, right?"
Mm.
So I had to tell him like, please keep the baby for 45 minutes 3 times a week so that I can step out and go to a Zumba class, or I can go lift my dumbbells in the guest bedroom, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I do that for him too. So I think you just got to advocate for yourself. You also want to be really strategic and intentional with the routine that you're going to develop, right? I always talk, and I've read your book, and I know you talk about this too, about setting smart goals,
Mm.
strategic, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're not setting goals that are actually attainable, you are going to get so frustrated when you don't meet them and you're going to give up. That's just how it's going to go. So you have to start small and be
Mhm.
strategic with the things that you're setting out to do. So if you have a small child and exercising 5 days a week is not possible for you, let's not set that as the goal. Like let's start
Yes.
smaller. Let's start with
Yes.
I want to work out like 30 minutes 3 times a week and see how that goes for a while, right? Like there
Mhm.
is no set perfect amount of time you need to work out. There's no perfect amount of days. There really is no perfect workout. I always
Yeah.
tell people
Yes.
whatever is the workout that you're going to enjoy and you will stay consistent with, that's the perfect workout for you. It's
Mm.
not the same for everyone, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I think that if you can start out by setting a realistic goal for your life, for the season that you're in, you're going to be much more likely to stick with it. And then you're going to feel a lot more encouraged
Mm.
as you're able to meet that. And then maybe you can add in another day or two here. I also think that being having a good plan ahead of time is also really
Oh,
important.
yes.
When you're the amount of time you have is so limited, so you don't want to waste time when you get to the gym, right? Okay, I have an hour at the gym. You don't want to waste time meandering around like, oh, I guess I could do that machine and maybe that one because you're wasting those precious minutes, right? So go
Yes.
into it with a plan. Like if you're going to the gym mentally or write it down in your phone, like
Mm.
this is the exercises I'm going to do today. So you can just knock it out. If you are somebody who needs like a guided program, and you want to do like a YouTube video at home, pick out the
Right.
YouTube video the day before so you can just get up and go and hit it. A lot
Mm.
of my students have told me, and I do this too, lay out your clothes and your shoes and your equipment, your
Yeah.
water bottle, everything the night before. So there's no barrier to your success, right? Like
Mm.
remove every barrier that there could be so that you can make sure that it happens. And then the last thing that I try to remind people in my program as well is to just give yourself grace.
Mm.
Life is busy, life is crazy, it's chaotic, it's unexpected. There are so many things that are inevitable. You're at some point in your life you're going to get injured and you're going to have to step back
Uh-huh.
from whatever routine you're doing, right? Like as I've gotten older, I throw my back out a lot more than I ever did. So, then you got to pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
There are inevitable things that are going to happen in your life, changes that are going to require more focus and are going to have you pull back from whatever fitness routine. So give
Mm.
yourself grace and understand that if it doesn't look perfect or you're not able to hit every workout that week, it's okay. We need to continue to celebrate each workout that we were able to do instead of beating ourselves up for the ones that we couldn't do, because
Mm.
us being able to move our bodies, us being able to exercise is such a privilege, and it's something that we take for granted. There are people, I think about this all the time, it makes me emotional. Like, there are people who would absolutely kill to be able to have the abilities that I have, right?
Yeah.
And I never want to take that for granted. So
Mhm.
anytime I'm able to move my body intentionally, I'm like, man, I'm so thankful that I can do this. So
Mm.
those are kind of the starter tips that I like to give people when they're just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to get going.
Oh my gosh. I love all of those, obviously. I love especially the last point that you make because, again, coming back to kind of how our generation was raised, exercise
Yeah.
was a form of punishment for like
Yes.
the junk food that you ate, or like, you would shame and guilt yourself if you didn't get that workout in. And it was such a harsh approach. And so,
Mhm.
really changing to have that attitude of gratitude and recognize all of the daily miracles that our body does for us on a regular basis that we take for granted. And just
Yeah.
truly having that appreciation and that perspective of like, wow, we're so lucky to be able to move our bodies like this. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love that one.
It took some intentional like rewiring in my brain
Oh, yeah.
to stop tying exercise to a punishment, right?
Mm,
For things that I ate.
yeah.
I'd be like, well, okay, I ate all this. I had fast food today. So now I need to probably like extend my workout by 20 minutes and run on the treadmill.
Yep.
And that's a hard shift because we
Hmm.
grew up believing that's the way it works. And
That's how
now
we
it's
were
more so,
conditioned. Yeah.
yeah, now it's more so like, no, like I'm gonna exercise because I want to, because I want to move my body and I want to feel
Hmm.
good and I want to feel strong. It's a celebration, it's not a punishment. But I recognize
Yes.
that that is easier said than done
Oh,
to
yeah.
get to that place in your mindset.
Hmm. Yeah, and that actually tags into something that I always try to have like an empower section of the podcast, right? And so I love the tips that you just shared. I think as I was listening to you and especially the advocate section, I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there, especially women, who
Mhm.
struggle to take that step to ask for that help, thinking that, that they're not strong enough to do it themselves, or that, they're not good enough in some way if they have to ask for help. So what are
Yeah.
some of the things that you would ask yourself or your clients to help them kind of work through that and to feel more empowered around being able to advocate for themselves?
Yeah. We could do a whole separate podcast on the mental log for women because
Yeah,
there is
so true.
so much on our minds all the time of
Mhm.
all the things that are going on in life, all the things that we have to take care of, and all the different hats that we wear as women and especially as moms.
Mhm.
And you often put yourself last. You're like, okay, my job is more important, my kids are more important, my husband's more important, my family members are more important. And like I said earlier, like we just completely neglect our health. And because
Mm.
of that, we're then not giving our best self
Yeah.
in any of those areas of our life. And so advocating for yourself is so important. And it starts with realizing and accepting that it's not selfish to ask for help, that you
Mm.
deserve to have time for yourself. Like I think about the times when, if my husband's going somewhere and when he's out and I've got the kids, he is not stressed for a second about how things are going at home. He knows I've got it. He knows the kids are safe, they're fed. But when I'm gone, I'm like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, hope everyone's okay. I'm texting, checking in. I'm like, I got to rush home and get home. Why do we do that? Why?
Listen,
You
I do
know?
that with my cat. Like, I
Yes.
don't even have kids, but with my cat, I'm like, oh my God, did I remember to close that
Uh
window
huh.
so he doesn't get out?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yes.
ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, as women, I think our brains are just wired that way, right? Like
Hmm.
we're always so concerned and so worried about everything else and we're the last on the to-do list, last
Mhm.
on the priority list.
Mm.
So I think that it's important to advocate for yourself, if that's with your spouse, if that's with your job even, to say, maybe talk to, if you have the ability to do this, talk to your boss and say, "Hey, on this day, is it okay if I kind of flex my hours, come in 30 minutes
Mm.
early so I can leave 30 minutes early so I can make it to this workout class," right?
Yeah.
Like, advocate for yourself and ask for those
Mhm.
opportunities to go do that, because nobody else is thinking about it. It's kind of the same in your career, even, you know, nobody's sitting around like thinking about my promotion or my advancement and my upward mobility. I have to be the squeaky wheel. I have to be the person to ask and advocate for myself if I want
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, that's so true. And it sounds like what would be a good place for people to kind of reflect on that is like what's important to them about being able to show up for the people that they care about in their lives and what's getting in the way of that, because sometimes the answer may be ourselves, that we're not taking that time to prioritize caring for ourselves, which is going to help support us in being our best version of ourselves, just like you said. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's
I
super
like to
powerful.
think about, like, when I'm exercising, how can I relate this to m my future self? I think a lot of
Ooh,
people are really
yes.
focused on short-term fitness goals and, like, "I wanna
Mm.
drop 20 pounds before this cruise," or "I wanna slim down before my wedding," or
Oh,
whatever. But, like, I'm
there. I'm
starting to
currently there.
there. But I'm in a place where I'm trying to focus on things way out in the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I am, 60 and I have
Mhm.
grandkids, I want to be able to get down on the floor and play with them. I
Yes.
want to be able to, in my 70s, walk upstairs without
Mm.
assistance.
Mhm.
I want to be able to, like these people I see at 5Ks who are like 40 years older than me and still running and still
Yes.
enjoying life to the fullest.
Mhm.
So I try to compare, especially when I'm lifting weights and I can kind of see a comparison, like, "Oh, I'm doing this movement, which is going to help me be able to do this everyday task,
Mhm.
10, 20 years from now." Like, I always do a lot of things on my social media about, like, what are you training for? Like, that's what I'm training for.
Yeah.
It's not so that I can look great in a bikini, though everybody wants
Mhm.
that, but, like, I'm training for my future self, right? So
Yeah.
that I can still be able to do the things that I want to experience in my life. So that's
Mhm.
another way I've really intentionally shifted how I view exercise, is to see it as something much more long term that I'm
Right.
training for.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And one of our past guests, actually, Rebecca Stewart, she kind of said a similar thing where she was like, "How can I help future Rebecca today?" And I was like, "Oh, I love that because
I
yeah,
love that.
we're usually so present moment focused, which can be good, right? We don't want to get too wrapped up in like what the future holds, but also like we need to take that time to think about how do we want our lives to look in the future, because then
Right.
that's going to help us kind of reverse engineer what goals do we need to set that are going to help support that future version of ourselves that we want. So I absolutely love that. And something else that I see on your social media content is like, while it seems like you tend to use your exercise time for yourself, there's also opportunities that you integrate your family into that too. So can you share with us a little bit more about how you kind of started bringing that into your life?
Yeah, I think it's great to get creative with what you're going to consider exercise, right? I think a lot of people think exercise has to fit in this box, and
Mm,
it's like it's going to a HIIT class or a cycle class, when in
mm-mm,
reality, there's a lot of ways to exercise, a lot of ways to move your body. And so if you are in a season of life where you have small kids or you have limited time with your family and you don't want to sacrifice that, involve them in the process. Like, I love going, I mean, when it's the right time of year and it's not like dark at 5 p.m., I love going for a walk with my family after dinner. It gives us the chance to get outside, which obviously has great
mm-hmm.
mental health benefits. We get
Yes.
outside, we can talk, but we're still exercising and we're still moving our bodies. I recently have started getting my son into running a little bit more. I particularly don't
Yeah.
love to run, but I do like being in like a race environment. It's just like
Yes.
electric. Everybody's excited and we're
The
accomplishing something
energy.
together.
Mm.
So, yeah, the energy's so great. And so, my son's 8. He has an unlimited supply of energy. So I'm like, "Why don't we channel this into something healthy?" And he just ran his first 5K with me, and it was
Oh,
so special
yay.
because, like, we had to stop a lot, which is fine because I need to
Right.
stop too.
Yeah.
But we walked a lot, but, like, it was just so special to do that with
Mhm.
him and to, like, listen to our special mommy son playlist together, and we got to talk along the run. At the end, he was so proud of himself with his medal, and he took it to school the next
Aw.
day. And so I'm trying to, like, find ways to incorporate my family
Yeah.
into whatever my exercise is, because I just think that's such a fun way, to lack of a better term, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You get
Right.
that social family time, but you're also doing something together that's healthy.
Mhm.
And I also think it's extremely important that we are modeling what healthy behaviors look like for our children,
Absolutely.
right? Because I think I learned a lot of unhealthy, disguised as healthy behaviors growing
Yep.
up. I think and you guys know what I mean by that. And so I'm trying to be mindful of that as I'm raising my own children, right? Like, how can I show them that having a body that can move and do all these things is a privilege, and that we should celebrate it, and we should go out and use our bodies to move and do fun things. So I'm trying to also make sure that I'm modeling those healthy behaviors for my
Mm.
kids too.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And is that kind of what inspired you to create your Workout with Mom program, or tell us a little bit about the program itself and what inspired you to bring that to life?
Sure. So I was teaching group fitness at the gym for a very long time, and I kind of didn't know any other way, right? I was never a workout from home person ever. I kind of dabbled in it a bit when I was on maternity leave with my
Mm.
second, and then the world shut down. And the
Ah,
gym shut
yes.
down in 2020. The gyms all closed, and all of a sudden, all of my students and people that I see on a regular basis are like, well, now what do I do? Because I go to the gym. And so
Yeah.
I started doing like Zumba classes and strength training classes on Instagram live, because, that's the only way we could connect with each other, really. And eventually it just kind of bloomed into like a full program where I was like, wow, we might not be going back to the gym for a long time. So let's start like creating some sort of program where I can have lots of options for people. And the Instagram live was great at first, but what
Yeah.
I realized is that my clients, busy moms, like, we can't all work out at the same time, right? Like, I'm
No.
preaching this message of like, do it when it works best for you, and you got to do what fits into your life and whatnot. But like, if
Mm.
it's only live at a certain time, so I started
Yeah.
building it into a platform that could be accessible to anyone, anywhere, anytime. All the workouts were super short, so it just kind of evolved into what it is today. And I never expected to start a small business.
That's
Well,
usually how it
but
goes, right?
I think, the early part of COVID, season 1 of COVID, really
Yeah.
pushed us all to do things that were outside of our comfort zone. And
Mhm.
so it kind of blossomed into what it is today.
Wow. Oh my gosh. It's crazy how sometimes those challenges that we're facing turn into beautiful things that never would have existed because either we, didn't think it was for us, or we didn't have it as a priority because there were other options. And then to now have this community that you've cultivated that allows moms these chances to engage in fun and empowering movement for themselves on a shorter time frame too, because just like you said, you don't have to have like a 45 to 60-minute workout for it to matter. Like even
Right.
something 10 to 20 minutes is going to count.
Yeah. And one of my absolute favorite success stories from my program because on social media, you're connected with people who you're acquaintances
Right.
with, or you knew them in a previous life. And a former coworker of mine from like 2 jobs ago, for whatever reason, was like, I need to start exercising. And so she started doing my videos, and she's been part of my program now for like 4 years. And when she first started, what really made her realize she needed to get into exercising more is like in her 30s was told she was having already like a heart problem, right? Like her
Oh
doctor was like,
gosh.
you need to make some severe life changes
Yeah.
because I'm concerned, right? And so in the course of the last like 4 years, I mean, she tells me all the time, like, you changed my life. Like I'm no longer on this medication that I needed. My doctor has told me like what a drastic change I see in you. And it's simply because she figured out the secret sauce to being consistent for her life, right? And she
Mhm.
just stuck with it. And it's made such a huge impact in her life. And I like who knew that this coworker from a previous life would now we're so intimately involved now. And she tells me like, I see you all the time on my computer when I'm working out. I see you like 4 times a week. And I never see her because we're all
Right.
pre-recorded. But it's just so wonderful that
Mhm.
programs like this can just bring special people into your life. And I think of her a lot when I am, posting my content and it gets low views, or,
Right.
somebody leaves my program or whatnot, because that's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I think of her and I'm like, but like that was worth it, right? Like this changed her life. And while your impact may not always feel like it's huge, it is and it matters. So I always try to think of her when I'm like, "Oh, I wish it was bigger, or I wish it was this, or wish it was that," but, like, she's the ideal person that I was trying to reach, and I'm so happy that my program brought us back together.
Absolutely. And it's such a powerful example of finding what works best for you. I think a
Yes.
lot of
Mm.
times people get bombarded with this information from, people who mean well. Like if you share that you're trying to make positive changes, people want to support you through that, which is great. But I think we get so rigid sometimes that we think we have to follow these restrictive and intensive plans to achieve what we want, and that's one option, and that does work for some people. They like that challenge, it fuels them. But for what I've experienced and what a lot of people within, I think, the changemaker community have experienced is like trying to take those challenges on and failing over and over and over again, and just feeling so defeated and disappointed and like shaming and blaming yourself. And so really just trying to open up and find these different avenues that are available that may be a little more unconventional than traditional fitness has been, which is exactly why we need stuff like this in the space. So that
Power.
was such an amazing example. It gave me chills when you were talking about how you changed her life, and that was just absolutely amazing. So thank you for
I
sharing
know.
that.
Well, yeah, thank you. I think it's a great what you were just saying about, we have to, be mindful that not everything's going to work for everyone and we all have different styles. I think we often forget that like we all don't have the same access either, right? Like we all don't
Yeah.
have the same abilities that everyone else has. And so to expect something that works for this person to also work for you is not always realistic, right? Like
Mhm.
there are people who can't afford a personal trainer, right? Like
Mhm.
that's
Yep.
that's just not a financial ability for them. And so programs like this that may cost a little bit less and it's virtual are great for that. And there are some people who like cannot get to a gym, like they just don't have
Yeah.
access to that. And so if they're able to do something at home that requires minimal equipment, minimal time, right? And so
Mhm.
that's what I've tried to create my program to be, is something that is going to work for someone who might be limited in a lot of areas, right?
Sure.
And we can't all assume, and this is why it frustrates me when I hear like fitness influencers say things like, well, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's
I
like,
was
no,
just
we
thinking
do
about
not.
that.
We do not. Joe, the bodybuilder, you do not have the same hours in your day as me. So I think it's just important to remember that, and going back to that that thought of grace, right? Of just
Mhm.
giving yourself grace and
Mm.
understanding that your situation not like everybody else's, and that your story is unique, and your body image struggles, the things that you have been through that have shaped how you view exercise and
Mhm.
nutrition and all of that is unique to you. And so it's kind of figuring out what works best for you. That's the perfect workout, is what works best for you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And that I feel the same way about when I see, like this celebrity like steal their routine or something like that. And it's like, I'm sorry, this person has like a team of people to take care of all other aspects in their life. So, yes, they can take that time to work out for,
Yeah.
an hour a
I
day with a personal trainer
I
who comes to their
I
home. They don't even have to
too.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure probably would have a six pack if I had a personal chef too, but I don't have that.
Oh my gosh, so true. So yeah, I love that you're just normalizing the fact that we all do have different demands in our lives. And so we do have to experiment and truly find what works best for us to fit the phase of life that we're in. And that's also going to change as our life changes, right? Like we're going to go through different chapters and different seasons, and that's going to require us to try to troubleshoot. And I've had to live that over the last few months. And even for myself, that learning to give yourself grace is something I still struggle with to this day, but I can tell you I've made a lot of progress since I've been practicing that more for myself and just being like, okay, Melyssa, this is a tough time right now. Let's take some pressure off and like, why don't we just go for a 10-minute walk outside? And just really trying to take it down to that foundational level. Like,
Yeah.
I always like to ask, what's the first smallest step that you can take to support yourself today? And then just trying to do that. And if you don't do it,
Yeah.
then that's still okay too. At least you tried.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. I mean, if you got out and walked for 10 minutes, that's more than what a lot of people are doing. So,
Mhm.
even if you think it doesn't count, or it wasn't hard enough, or you didn't push yourself enough, whatever, like forget all that. Like,
Mhm.
you got up, you did something, you accomplished something. That is a win in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I've also had to like untrain myself to think is I used to
Mhm.
believe, if you weren't sweating like buckets, then it didn't count.
Yeah,
And it's like, no,
right,
some movement is
right.
better than none. Let's just leave it at that. 2 minutes better than zero.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, I used to believe, yeah, I gotta burn a ton of calories, I gotta be super sweaty, I have to feel super sore the next day, and if none of
Hmm.
those things were checked, then it wasn't a good enough workout, but that's so toxic. We have to stop
It
thinking that.
is. I know. I know. So for our listeners who are like looking to take that first step, what are some of the things that you would encourage them to do? And do you have anything available for them that could help take that first step?
Yeah. So the first step is, to me, is really to just try something. Try something for the first time. Like, if you're nervous to go to the gym and walk into a classroom where a bunch of people are there and you're intimidated, try something at home, right? Put
Mm,
on a YouTube video for like 20 minutes. I love doing like Pilates on YouTube, and there's
mm-hmm.
all kinds of classes that are like a 15-minute Pilates, 20-minute Pilates. Like, just try it. You know, we all have the ability to carve out 20 minutes, right? Like, just try something new, because if you don't know what you like, you're going to have to experiment for a bit and figure that out. So just try something at home at first. And if you don't like it, try something else and keep going until you find the thing that's the right fit for you. My program itself, I have a couple of different tiers. So depending on what you're looking for, but and the top tier is really meant for somebody who just has absolutely no idea what to do. A lot of people tell me they have choice paralysis. They open up YouTube and are looking for a workout video, and they're like, well, there's a million options. I don't know what to choose. So I'm just not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's really towards somebody who is like, I don't know where to start, and I need somebody to tell me exactly what to do. So all of my videos are that way. I'm doing the workout with you and I'm talking you through it as we do it. The lowest tier, though, which is the least expensive one, it's really great if you just need a plan, like a written plan, right? Where I've
Mm,
written down, here's what you're going to do. for your strength training for 3 days this week. Yeah. So it's just very simple, very basic. It has links to examples so you know exactly what the workout is. And I also think that's great for someone who is just looking for somebody to guide them in the right direction. Another thing that I try to remind people too is that it's okay to quit something that you hate. I think a lot of people think, wrongly that exercise is supposed to feel bad. It's supposed to be hard and miserable. But
Right.
if you've been in a fitness routine for a really long time and you hate it, like you're dragging yourself there, you're miserable going, maybe it's not the right thing for you.
Mhm.
So I'm all about just trying something different because once you finally figure out that workout routine that you like, that you enjoy, it's going to be that much easier to keep going with it. And when we talk about fitness, this isn't just like something we're going to do in our 20s or our 30s. Like we're talking about long, long, long time. And so if you hate hit, you're not going to be going to hit classes in your 70s, right? Like you
Yes.
got to find something that you enjoy. So I'm always like, anytime somebody asks me if I want to go try this class or this class, I'm always down to try something new because you just never know. It could be the thing that you fall in love with. So I think that's my first step is to just try something new, get out of your comfort zone, but you can start in a safe place at your own house.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great tip. And hopefully that helps people just have a little bit of permission to take the pressure off of themselves to show up at like that highest level that they think they need to perform at and just like start dipping your toes in the water before you start like cannonballing, right?
Yeah.
Into something new.
Yeah. That's what I love what you said. Like, just get out and go for a walk for 10 minutes. That's better than 0 minutes. Like, it can be small. A workout does not have to be an hour-long commitment. Like, you can
Right.
really start small. Just get used to it. Baby steps. There is no need to dive all the way in. My husband is guilty of this. Like, he's the guy that's like, all right, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to go to the gym for this long amount of time. And I'm like, this is never going to work out. You're going from 0 to 60. You got to just baby steps, just cautiously
Yes.
get into it slowly. And then it will slowly start to become more routine for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that so much. And Matt's the same way too. He's like all or nothing kind of guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait.
I know. And he never listens to me. I'm like, I've only been a fitness professional for like 13 years, but what do I know?
Thank you. That's so
Yeah.
true.
That's
Oh,
frustrating.
well, I've been closing the guest episodes with just kind of asking you, the healthy living doesn't have to suck message. So what are
Yeah.
some of the ways that you bring that into your own life or into what you do in the world?
Yeah. So I would say for me, again, it's going back to that mindset where I'm shifting away from seeing exercise and even food. I don't like to talk about nutrition a lot because that's not in my scope at all. But
Sure.
just for me, my personal journey is like just shifting that view of 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 fitness and nutrition from being punishment and being more about a celebration. So even when it comes to the foods that I'm eating, I mean, I never want to be in a place where I'm restricting myself from being able to enjoy all the good foods that I love that I have enjoyed for my whole life, or foods that are cultural, like part of my Puerto Rican heritage that I want to be able to eat. I don't want to have to restrict myself from those things. Like I want to be able to enjoy life. But at the same time, I think people often they misconstrue like body positivity and think that it also means that I don't care about being healthy, which
Mm,
you can love and appreciate and accept your body while also wanting to better it and wanting to be healthy and wanting to treat it right. So
yes.
just like I am okay and can get down with eating some french fries, I also love a salad. Like
Mhm.
I I absolutely like there are ways, and I'm getting like more into baking and cooking lately and like
Ooh.
trying to use like more fresh ingredients, like healthy ingredients. And I'm like, wow, okay, like I can make this and it's healthy for me and it actually tastes good. That's possible. Like, I think
Yes.
we grew up thinking that
Yes.
like health foods were going to be gross. They're going to taste bad, but they
Right.
don't have to.
Mm-mm.
Um, so for me, it's kind of just it's starting to understand that living this healthy lifestyle of prioritizing my health and fitness and also trying to fuel my body with healthy foods doesn't have to be miserable. It doesn't have to be terrible. And if I want it to be sustainable long into the future, I'm going to have to find ways that I'm going to be able to enjoy it. So that's
Yes.
what I would say for me.
Oh my gosh. Preaching to the choir. I love it. I
I
love it.
know.
I love
When I
it.
read your blog, I was like, oh my gosh, we share the same mindset on all this stuff. So it's great.
And this is exactly why I wanted to bring you in for our listeners, because I knew that this was going to be such a valuable conversation for them. For people who would love to connect with you, where is the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, so my website is workoutwithmom.com, but you can also find me on social media. I am on Instagram and TikTok as Alayna J Curry. I love TikTok, so I'm on there a lot. So if you're on TikTok or Instagram, come over and let's be friends.
Oh, amazing. All of that will be linked in the show notes for everyone. And I'm also going to link to your blog because, especially for the moms out there who may want some additional resources, I know you've got some amazing tips on there and you've been featured in a lot of different media outlets with that helpful information. So definitely make sure to include that since it's so relevant to our conversation today. But Alayna, thank you so much for joining
Yep.
me. This was absolutely enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, we could talk for hours about all of these topics, but
Truly.
thank you so much for inviting me. I really admire you so much in the work that you're doing. I think we need more people who look at health and fitness the way that you do. And so just it's an honor to get to chat with you today on your podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Well, I can't wait for our listeners to connect with you. And who knows, I'll have to see if we get any of the listeners and the change makers into your workout with mom. That would be
I would
so
love that.
wonderful.
Yes, I love that.
All right. Well, change makers, keep it real and go kick some ass with your goals. We'll catch you next time. I hope you all enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. And don't forget to grab your freebie with the wellness wheel at healthylivingdoesn'thavetosuck.com/wellness so you can get started on your changemaker journey today. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, y'all. As always, remember, this is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platforms.